here at your Sydney Swans. Cheer, cheer the red and the white, honour the name by day and by night.
Welcome back to A Bevy of Bloods, a fan podcast of the Sydney Swans Football Club.
So to all you loyal Swans out there, you just can't get enough of the red and the white.
Fluff up your tail feathers and settle in for a potentially biased yarn about all things to do with our beloved Bloods.
While our loyal Swans are marching onwards to victory.
G'day there, Cygnets and Swanlings. Welcome back to A Bevy of Bloods, your weekly Sydney Swans podcast. You're joined, as always, by the crew from Sydney. This is Harps. I've got the man who goes to every game, superfan Sam, on the line, and also joining us first time this season, although not first time on the podcast, Brett. Sammy, over to you.
Well, we're talking today about our agonisingly close loss to the Lions. Remember, if you like what you hear, please give us a follow, and we'll kick things off with a quick game recap.
Yeah, grand final replay. Someone said to me afterwards, wasn't as bad as last year, which is true, but unfortunately we still went down. Very, very, very hot afternoon at the SCG. Really, honestly scorching for anyone who was there. 12 goals, 14-86. The Lions just got over us in the end. We were 12-10-82. So, Brett, first time this year on the podcast. You're a very technical thinker about the game, Brett. I've always thought that, being a friend of yours. What do you think about the game? How'd you find it?
I've got to say I enjoyed it. Full disclosure, I missed most of the second quarter. Talking about the heat, my son cracked it. He's only 4. He doesn't know how to control his emotions, a bit like some of the fans. And so I missed a bunch of the second quarter. But after the first quarter, I thought we were fantastic. And second quarter kind of moved it along, but not at such a pace, and then fell away in the third. And I think we kept running with them in the fourth. So overall, I obviously disappointed and gutted to lose a close one, but generally I wasn't sad about the loss, just a little bit disappointed. Yeah.
And Sammy, what did you think? We're at the end of round one and somehow we were 0-2. We've lost 2 games. What's going on, mate?
We've got to get rid of this opening round thing. They've just got to play 9 games in the first round. They can put the emphasis on New South Wales and Queensland, but they don't have to. But yeah, on the contrary to Brett, I was devastated to lose this game. I was not a happy chap.
Tell us why, mate.
Well, I think I think we lost the game rather than Brisbane winning it. Like I don't want to shout him out because I really like him as a player, but Matty Roberts' kick was horrendous. There was a couple of silly misses. There's just sliding doors moments where if we just did one extra thing, to get one extra goal or concede one less goal, we would have won that game. And it's gut wrenching, especially after last year. There's a lot of trauma there for, I'm sure, the players as well, but us fans.
And Sam, maybe just stick with you then. A different team. I mean, we talked about this last week, but that was not the same team that stepped out of the MCG in September. A few debutants, a few youngsters. How did that play into the game on Saturday, do you think?
Look, I think that's probably where the extreme heat would have come into play, because obviously for the senior players, they should be prepared for that. But for the younger ones who don't have as much exposure, maybe they're just not as adept to playing in those conditions. And Brisbane being a consistent 96% humidity, they probably are even the youngsters. So it did impact the game, but I think that in saying that, our youngsters and first gamers, specifically first gamers, did very well. I don't think they were the reasons that we lost that game.
Yeah, you mentioned the heat there, Brett. What did you think about the heat? I noticed the fatigue. I thought kicking in. I actually thought we were sloppy up front. Couple of blaze shots out in the full very early on, right? But third quarter, fourth quarter, I noticed us dropping the ball, fumbling, missing quite easy skills. How did you reflect on that?
You could argue that it was by the time we got to the third quarter, fatigue or the heat, whatever was taking its toll. But the fact that we still had the wood on them in the last quarter, so hard to know if that's it or whether we just fell away for a quarter and just needed to. I can't remember which of you said it last podcast, but we needed to play 4 quarters and we didn't do it. And whether it was the heat or not, I'm not too sure. But I know it was absolutely boiling, especially where we were sitting. So players would have been feeling it tenfold.
Yeah. I mean, it was roasting. It actually, we don't get a lot of comments on our Instagram page, but we actually got a comment this week. Someone at the game posted an Instagram reel saying it is extremely hot over here at the SCG, and one of our listeners replied, "It's not so hot in the shade." So the internet doing its thing there. Internet discourse at its best. Keep them coming, listeners. We love that stuff. Look, I can hear the disappointment, but let's focus on the positives. That was a good performance. A lot of things to like. Let's start with the team. What was good about the team? What did we like? And then a lot of individual performances we were chatting about beforehand that we also liked. So maybe I'll go you first, Sam. Reflections on the team. What improved from last week? How did you feel about that?
Well, I think one of the key things that did improve was our pressure. I think we out-tackled them by 14. We had 60 to 46. Out-tackled them inside 50. If you actually have a look at all the stats, we won the uncontested game. We won the hit-outs. We somehow won the free kicks, which didn't feel like it, and I think we got robbed in some occasions. But overall, we won inside 50s. We were more efficient in terms of disposals. So there were more positives, whereas last week against Hawthorn, we lost the pressure and all the other stats. So I think that starts with the pressure, and that was the biggest positive I'd take out of that, and also, I guess, the performances of some of the players.
And how about you, Brett?
Yeah, I was going to say, I was looking at some of the stats today, and it was the scoreline almost reflected the stats. They had us for clearances and both centre and stoppages. Otherwise, we were fairly evenly matched. I mean, Brodie seemed to dominate the hit-outs, maybe not to advantage. So it was generally, it was a close game, and it was up against a quality team in Brisbane. So that's why I guess while Sammy might be absolutely gutted, I wasn't as gutted as him. I just thought we were a hell of a lot better than September last year.
Speaking of September, played the Hawks and Brisbane now. Both, I thought, looked really good as teams. Do we think they'll both get pretty deep into the final series?
It's a long season, so who knows? But at this stage, it is looking that way.
Yeah. Yeah, and look, we ran with them both, right? I think it's easy to be disappointed. 0-2, first week wasn't great. I thought there were a lot of positives to take out of last week's performance, the game against the Lions. Probably a good time to start talking about the Bob medal, who we thought was best on ground. 3 points, 2 points, 1 point, and then we give him out at the end of the season, the Bob medal, the best player. I'll go first, just drawing on something you said there, Sammy. I really noticed the step up in pressure. And I was in a slightly different seat this week than usual, and I was a bit lower to ground, so I could see the physicality a bit more when you get a bit closer to the fence. And there's a moment in the third quarter where Braden Campbell was running down a ball in the kind of forward pocket. It was up the non-members' end of the ground. And I just saw him charging, like in the heat, right? 3 quarters in, everything he had, just eyes on nothing but the ball. Didn't get there in the end, but laid a bump on. And I thought that effort and that commitment was honestly really impressive to watch. So I thought Braden had a great game. I'll put him on first. I thought he was one of the best games I've seen him play for the Swans, and I thought his commitment to tackling, the goals, it was really almost a coming of age game. I thought for him, it was a wonderful game.
Yeah, well, look, I'll go next. Corey Warner, as called out by Jules, had a fantastic game. I think specifically his first half. He kicked 2 goals in the first quarter, but he was just everywhere with what he was doing as well. From those 10 touches, he had 6 score involvements in that first half. So he was very good. He was probably one that may have been impacted by the heat a little bit and did drop off in the second half, but still had another two score involvements, which I think were both behinds. So one where maybe if he kicked one of those, could be a very different result.
Pretty nasty headshot as well, wasn't it? First quarter on him.
Yeah, but of course that doesn't get reported.
Yes. Who else, Sam? Corey did well.
Yeah, no, I think there's also I loved Hanley's game again. I thought he was really good. Kicked his first goal, which was great. Looked like second Papley out there. I don't know. I just really like his repeat efforts as well. I think they're really clear that after he lays a tackle, he just gets back up and keeps going. He had 20 pressure acts, which is really good. Spent a lot of time on the ground. I didn't notice him maybe, drop off as much. I thought he was really good, and I think Joel Hamling as well had a really good debut. Down back just looks solid, especially given he hasn't played for us before, and given Milliken's injury, which we'll touch on more later, looks like he'll get a good few weeks in the team, and it's crazy to think he wasn't playing last year and we're playing Francis. One more off the cuff I want to chuck on too is Chad Warner. He didn't have his best game, and his stats maybe aren't reflected in terms of fantasy football points. He's in my team as well, because he had 5 free kicks against, but he had a game high again score involvements, and a lot of those came in the second half where we were not at our best. So, he had the 9 score involvements. I think, meters gained, he was up there in the top 3 again, inside 50s, most on ground. Did decently with 5 clearances as well. So even though he did not have his best game, he still did a lot and kicked some clutch goals too. So I wanted to throw him in there.
Brett, how about you? A couple of honourable mentions, and then we'll run through the points, I think.
Yeah, Brody Grundy he was winning most of the taps, but I'm not sure that they went to advantage, or we weren't really converting it. There was definitely they had us as mentioned in by way of clearances, but Grundy still seemed to be dominating there. So mentioned to him, and then I really liked the look of Bice. Just the way he moved on the ground, he looked like he'd been playing for quite a while. I know he's obviously played plenty of AFL, but I just love the look of him. There was one run that he took. He was illegally held on a run. He was going from inside defensive 50, and he was about to. I was going to say, I'm pretty sure he was going to run it inside 50, but he got I can't remember who held him, but it was a cheeky grab and stopped his play. But he was looking really good. So yeah, I really like the look of him.
One more thing on Grundy there too. I thought he was really, really good around the ground. Like I thought his marks were like impactful. Probably his like outside game, which is rare for him, was really good.
He's really key to us. I worry about him getting injured. I don't know. It's a big loss, I think, if we don't have Grundy. I mean, you made the point there, Brett, that the centres weren't necessarily getting the ball off his taps, but there were games last year where the opposition weren't touching the ball. It was just Grundy winning it into one of our centres, and the rest was history, right?
Yeah, indeed.
So let's talk about the points then. We had planned this beforehand. It's not all just shot from the hip, listeners. Sammy, 1 point. You wanted to go for Milliken. Great game, really very mature game, I thought. One of the best I've seen him play. Talk us through how you felt he went.
Yeah, I think it wasn't about stats. It was more the aura, and whenever he was around the ball, it felt like he made an impact. So whether that be a intercept possession, intercept mark, a general mark, a 1%er. He distributed the ball really well. He had 13 touches at 85%, 7 intercept possessions, and even 3 score involvements, and that was in 3 quarters because he got injured early on in the fourth, which is a shame. We'll touch on that a bit later, but I think he's probably just taken the mantle of the the best defender at the moment, given Rampy's age and Tommy McCartan's move forward and Hamling's first game.
Yeah, very composed. And then Brett, 2 points. You went with Heaney.
Yeah, again, he was solid. Everyone expects a lot given the season he had last year. But Heaney, yeah, he was solid. He's mid-20s for the touches. He was getting the contested possessions. He had 7 score involvements. Took a clutch grab and goal with a couple of minutes left that, I thought he was going to win us the game. So, yeah, just seemed to be everywhere. He just seemed to be in and around the ground. So that's why I thought Heaney deserved 2.
Yeah, happy when the ball fell to him in the last quarter. I thought if that's going to fall to anyone, I'm glad it's in his hands. And sure enough, he put it home, right? Sammy, reveal our number 1. Bit of a surprise.
All right, we're going to go with James Jordan for the 3 votes. So honestly, he wasn't in my 3 votes after the game. It was only once we started talking about it, and then someone told me Lachie Neale was playing because he kept him to 10 touches and had 19 himself. So really under the radar performance, but probably a big reason that we were able to stay so close given last year's catastrophic result in the grand final, because Lachie Neale was arguably best on, or if not, he was a clear second behind Ashcroft. So amazing job by James Jordan, and crazy we didn't do it in the grand final.
Good stuff. 3 for Jordan, 2 for Heaney, 1 for Melican. We'll add them up at the season end and see how close we are to the professionals. Okay, we're about halfway through. We don't want to lose next week, do we? So what's got to change? We've got a bit of a list of things we think enforced changes, injuries, suspensions, a couple of people we think should step up. Brett, you want to go first? What do you think's got to change to get the win next week?
I got to say, a couple of our more experienced players need to lift. I'm talking about Will Hayward and Ollie. Now, Ollie hasn't been horrible or anything, but he does need to lift. And Will Hayward, we've had Chad, Isaac, and Braden, a few of the other guys kicking goals, but not him. So he really needs to be kicking goals. So I think, was it Noddy who might have said after the game that both of them need a rocket? So that's one thing that I think has to change is the talking to they get to before the game from Cox or whoever's the forwards or backs coach.
Bit more urgency. Sammy, we've got about 5 minutes kind of scheduled in for you to just lose it on McInerney distribution, pattern. Where do you want to start, mate? Or you go for it.
Yeah, look, we'll start with Ben Patton because I think that's a more pressing issue, especially given Juzzy's unfortunately out for 3 weeks and unjustly. Ben Patton. I'm very glad he got subbed off after assisting, amazing goal assist to Zach Bailey. I don't know why we recruited him. I hope he can turn it around and show me. But if he couldn't get into 15th place in Kilda last year, then I don't know how he's getting the game with us. And that's showing. So it just seems like, he looks really suspect when the ball's anywhere near him. And he doesn't seem to be defending well. He's certainly not, putting it forward in any way that's, like Blakey or the Bison, or really any of our running backs or kicking backs. Matty Roberts, Lloydie, obviously Roberts had the mistake, but forgiven for him, he's a great player. So even Melican and Hamling and Rampy, they're all able to, go forward and defend, and I just don't think he's able to really go forward or defend. So I'm hoping that the Bice, who had a fantastic quarter or quarter and a half, or whenever he assisted Zach Bailey and got subbed off instantly, I hope he can come in and take over because he was fantastic. So it's first one. Juzzy, love Juzzy.
What do you think? Bit of time in the VFL? Bit of time in the reserve, sorry?
100%, maybe the rest of the season. Juzzy, I think I love Juzzy, and I don't think he should be out for 3 weeks. Suspension, fair enough, but 3 weeks is a bit harsh. But I find it very, very infuriating when he gets the ball, marks the ball, that is, not when he's in play, and he's got such dash and such, instinctive features to his game. But if he marks the ball, he takes about 10 seconds to dispose of it. And I find it very, very frustrating. But Harps, tell me what you think, because I think this is something that's frustrating you too.
Look, I picked up on it when I saw you standing in your seat and screaming at him every time he got the ball. And it was hard not to notice after that yes, he did. He does hold on to the ball. There's nothing wrong with being composed and taking a moment. I like that, actually. Sometimes AFL players can be guilty of blazing. But yeah, I mean, look, once you discreetly pointed it out to everyone within 40 metres of our seat, Sammy, I think it was evident to all. So I'm with you. There's a bit of time to think about it, I think, with the suspension. So maybe that's a positive. We want to talk about forwards. I got a text after the game from a listener and a friend, Craig, down a South Melbourne fan. Said this team will be a different team when Logan and McLean are back. What do we think about that?
Well, we'd be bigger. And so we need to do something up forward. We've got, like I said, if you've got Chad and Heaney kicking, fall between them in games and some of the other smalls around the ground contributing, then your bigger forwards need to be asking themselves questions, such as Amati, and you could argue again Hayward. So I think having Logan back, or McLean, whether or not you put him up, I assume you would have him up forward anyway. I can't imagine it's going to be a bad thing. So, yeah, we need to do something up there, whether that's helping Amati or, I don't think he should be dropped or anything, but he definitely needs some assistance.
I think he's got a hard role at the moment, right? He's the tallest and largest forward, and he's got a rotating team of defenders of large size again, smashing him 4 quarters, right? There's no respite. When you've got the other tools up there, he gets a bit of time to breathe or a mismatch every now and again, right? But I feel he's really under the pump without the other two around him.
Yeah, I think with the key forwards as well, or the key position players, with Melican's injury, we can't bring Aaron Francis in. It just can't be an option. So we've got to move Tommy McCartan back to defence. Whether that's temporarily until Melican comes back or not, I'm not sure. But with that, it would be good to see. Obviously, Logan's injured, but it would be good to see McLean come in, or even Jack Buller, or if neither of them are available, maybe Laddams come into the team up forward and play that role, and then have the stability back. Because Tommy McCartan, he's marking the ball, and I think he's a great player, but I think he's a better defender than he is a forward. And as much as he competes, and he's a great competitor, having him assured down back, taking contested marks and taking the best key forward seems more valuable in my personal opinion.
So, few enforced changes there, Brett, with their Melican, McInerney. Going to be a few ins and outs. You want to talk us through who's coming in, who we think is going to take the place of the people stepping aside for various reasons?
Yeah, with Juzzy and Milligan definitely out, it might be a chance for, if McLean pulled up all right after his VFL game, he might be back in with Tommy McCartan moving back.
That'd be nice.
But potentially anyway. I think we might expect, based on what we saw, you might expect Patton is put out to pasture, and therefore maybe Shordrick gets his chance to come back in. I thought it was a bit unjust, him getting knocked after the Hawthorn game. I thought maybe he could have held on to him, so maybe he gets a chance to come back in. And is Cleary, I'm not sure if he's back this week or whether he's still on suspension. But
he had a two game ban for
so maybe he gets his chance.
Late, I think is the reason.
Euphemism. So yeah, maybe he gets his chance. So it could be a few different heads come free again.
Yeah, I think the big part of that as well is with Patton hopefully going out. we can bring Bice into the 22 and he can take over that defender position, even if that's in an attacking role. He'll still be adding value, unlike Patton. So I think, probably Cleary would come back in as the sub.
Thanks, Sammy. So Freo got absolutely thumped by Geelong. In themselves, a good side over the weekend. Tough game though, always a tough game in the West, and pretty ferocious crowds too. Brett, how do you see the weekend going?
Yeah, beware the wounded, whatever a docker is. It's a midfield that don't take. Remember, these were the guys that I don't know if it was the catalyst for our demise last year. Well, I shouldn't say demise. We still made the GF, but for that form slump we had, we got guys like Sarong, Brayshaw. I think O'Meara was busy on the weekend. Look, I didn't watch any of the game, but I wouldn't take them lightly, and I don't think Cox will. We should still be favourites, and I should expect we should win this game. But it's just an ominous midfield. It scares me.
I checked the odds. Sorry, Sam, you're up next. But I checked the odds, Brett, on that before the podcast, and Freo are paying $1.55.
Okay, there you go.
We're way up.
Money on the Swans.
$2.30 or something we're paying. Sam, what do you think?
I think that both games last year, they were actually really good against us. Over in Optus, we just kicked straight and they didn't. And that was the difference in the first half. We were efficient and they weren't, and they had the loss of, unfortunately, a former player of theirs that most of the team had played with for that first game. So that was the first time we played them. And then the next time, as Bretty mentioned, that was the start of a very, very bad undoing. And they jumped us harder than I think any team had really jumped us at that point. They maintained us in the second. I think we had a really good third, and I think we had a decent fourth quarter from memory. And then obviously Logan missed that shot after the siren. So we could have beaten them, but really, they were both a lot they were quite close games. They're the team I think that are under most pressure this year, just because they were probably the team that should have made finals last year and didn't. I think they finished ninth, and if the last game of the season went their way, which was not a massive blowout, but I think Port did control it, they would have made finals. So. They're under a lot of pressure. They've got a really, really good list all round, and it is over in Perth, so it is a scary proposition. But we'll have to see.
Off the cuff, let's just take a little time to enjoy your company, Sam. You're heading over to Freo. Are you? Go to every game? You going over there?
Yeah, I will be heading over there. Any hiring managers in technology that are still listening? Let's have lunch. I recruit project services. So anyway, just get a plug in there. But I am heading over to Perth tomorrow night, and it's Tuesday night now. So Wednesday night I'll be heading over.
Good man. Every single game. And Sammy, actually, while we're on it, I have to talk about your game outfit, which you chose.
No, we can't talk about that.
You chose at the start of autumn, not expecting a 35-degree day to pop up on the radar, and I mean, you're as superstitious as probably any fan I've ever met. Sammy goes, look, I'm having a real dilemma. I bought a full Swans outfit, which is obviously designed for winter, like deep trousers, very white, a quite heavy shirt, the full kit really. And he said, I don't know if I can wear it in what is it, 75 degrees outside or something. But Sammy, you turn up, right? The full jeans, sitting in the sun for 2.5 hours. I respect it, mate.
Thank you for embarrassing me, Harps.
Okay. Look, I'll just say I think it would be nice to win. We have a lot of confidence. We have a lot of good things happening, but you look at the ladder and you're 0-3, and it's not easy to swallow that. And then it's a tough run coming as well. So I'm hoping, as someone said to me on the way out of the game, look, maybe we'll just be amazing away from home this year. So fingers crossed. All right, got time for a little pop quiz. This might interest you. I took my daughter to the game on the weekend, and we always buy a badge beforehand from the Swan shop. And there are actually 3 other people on this podcast. Our sound guy, Mark, might be convinced to just say one word. Maybe not. We'll leave him till last. But definitely you other two, Sam and Brett. You got one guess at what the lady told me was the most popular badge on Saturday. And I'm going to give you a clue. She only have one guess. It's none of the big 3.
And they're player badges, I assume.
They are, sorry, yeah. They're photo of the player with the name at the bottom, yeah.
Most popular. Who's the cultist, cult-like figure?
You're on a good angle.
The party?
It was not the party. It was not the party. Sammy?
Can I ask a quick question? Was the player playing?
The player was not playing.
The player was not playing. Oh, jeez. And it wasn't one of the big 3.
Wasn't one of the big 3. Everyone's got those badges, mate.
Holy mongoose. That's thrown me. But I'm glad I got the insight. Oh gosh.
Have a think.
I'm
Mark Walker,
trying.
Sound man, can you be convinced to just unmute momentarily and give us one name?
Past or present players?
They're present. Sorry, I should have said that's present squad.
Mills?
Not Mills. No. Put you out of your misery. It's Riak Andrew.
I would have never got that. I was
surprised
gonna
as well.
say originally I was gonna say Marty, then I was gonna say Papley, then I was gonna say I don't know.
Everyone else.
Yeah, honestly, I was yeah, even the lizard I was gonna chuck in there.
All right. Well, look, thank you very much for listening. If you made it this far, we must be doing something right. This is the point where we ask for likes and follows, but my daughters were listening last week and they said, Dad, asking for likes and follows is total cringe. It's not going to get you any likes or follows. So do what you like with your likes and follows. It's not why we do the podcast. Sammy.
Well, whether it be in person or on the potty or a work lunch with the tech recruiter, we look forward to whenever you can join us next time. But until then,
Up the bloods.
Can't
can't use Swanee.